Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Visibility Standard. I am so excited for my guest today. She is the podcast host of Get Fame Ready. And today we are just going to be talking about brand ownership, what it really means to be booked, what it takes to get booked. Katrina Owens, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Jazzmyn. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. It was like a long time in the making, so we're ready.
Yes, so when I initially reached out to you, I was so enamored by your brand voice and just how you show up online. And I was so appreciated your response and you're like, actually, I'm testing something out and seeing how people gravitate towards it. What led you to reassess how you were showing up online?
Yeah, it feels like it's been this evolution over time, which has been really interesting because I think for most of us, when we start off as a personal brand, we aren't exactly sure how we want to show up. We don't know
Mm,
how to translate like our offline persona into the online space because it is different. And we can talk about this in a little bit, but I really believe in like having a professional personal brand, which doesn't
mm,
necessarily mean we have to come up on the internet and like share everything.
mhm,
So over the last, I would say, 12 months specifically, I've been on this journey of, okay, I offer a very kind of select group of services that are kind of niche, that require a certain type of individual. How do I reach that individual? And it
mm,
started off by just, we test messaging to see like, okay, what resonates to bring in our ideal clients. But then I realized I had to get a little bit louder in some of the
mhm,
things that I was seeing unfold online, especially in my industry. I mean, I work in public
mhm,
relations. I guess we could say this for any online service provider, but people can, use ChatGPT or use like
mhm.
Google AI to figure out how to do things on their own, which I totally appreciate. So why do people actually choose to work with us? And it's funny, just as an aside, I think for your like your area of expertise, I think that's especially so too, because so many people are now turning, not that this is like a great thing, but turning towards AI for like therapeutic purposes,
Yes.
which we can talk about in a second. But I got to a place where I'm like, okay, well, at the end of the day, people work with me because of me and because
Mhm.
as a coach, there is a certain side of me that you will get that is very direct. I will tell you
Mhm.
what's what. I'm going to give you the support that you need to actually achieve whatever visibility goal you have is. But that wasn't coming out online because I was nervous that it was going to maybe not offend people. It's not like I get up online and like, I'm very offensive, but I was like, okay, it's a bolder take. It's like
Mhm.
very convicted and rooted in your transformation and knowing what you deliver is like top tier. So I had
Mhm.
to be confident in showing up with that energy behind me instead of this kind of like, oh yeah, here's my services.
Mhm.
Let me know if you like them. It was more like, here's why you need me. And that requires a
Mhm.
different voice, not necessarily like one that isn't yours, but one that's
Mhm.
stronger, more convicted, willing to maybe even like be a bit like divisive, like,
Mhm.
people aren't gonna like it sometimes, and I'm sure that's happened. So I think that's when you had originally caught me. It was when I was like in the middle of trying to make a transition to a bolder energy, bolder voice, and I was like,
Mhm.
okay, someone noticed. We must be on the right track.
I love that I could affirm that for you, but I mean, what you're speaking to is so important because a lot of times how we think about using AI to cut through the noise, it's actually doing the complete opposite because everyone's going to AI. Everyone's wondering how they can present this very perfect brand online when authenticity and boldness is actually what's going to cut through the noise. It's people actually seeing what they're going to get when they work with you. I always say so many people can promise outcomes. Like we're
Mhm.
all essentially selling a similar product. So we're all going to promise similar things. what sets you apart is like what the person is going to get when they work with you, who they're going to get in the room, the kind of direction that they're going to get. That's what the selling offer really is.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think, I mean, I really believe like you can work with any kind of coach or service provider and probably receive an outcome that is close to what you wanted, right?
Mhm.
Because it's the end of the day when we're working with like coaches or any kind of like done with you, or even in the case of your work, it's okay, it is up to the individual to actually like take what's said to them and execute,
Mhm.
but it's in the delivery of that coach who's going to also hold you accountable, who's going to show you what your gaps are. And I know for me, as a recovering people pleaser back in the day, when I started my coaching business, that was actually one of the things that I struggled with. Like, I was not willing to actually call out my clients on what they weren't doing, or what they maybe like weren't implementing, which was impacting their results. And that meant my clients weren't getting strong enough results.
Mhm.
Whereas once I decided to really show up with strength and with a voice and tell my clients, like, hey, yeah, the reason why you're not seeing the desired outcome is because you're actually not implementing this 100%. Obviously,
Mhm.
people got stronger results, but I felt like who I showed up as a coach and wasn't necessarily what I was comfortable with putting online, because I was like,
Mhm.
maybe people don't want to hear the hard truths when they're scrolling Instagram. Like,
Yeah, it's like, okay, how do I ease them in? But like you said, there is that recovering people pleaser part in when we're selling our offers, we're like, hey, if you like it, if you think it'll work for you, come join us rather than having a more direct, bold take of like, this is why I can support you. This is why I believe I can get you in the direction that you want to go in. Why are we so afraid to lean towards that style of selling, you think?
Mm. I think because it feels overtly salesy. So I had this message from a client last week, and the message she sent me was, why am I so bad at sales? And I'm not a sales coach, but obviously sales is an outcome of public relations, of visibility, of
Mhm.
personal branding. And at the end of the day, I want all my clients to make money. So she was coming to me with this complaint or this concept she was holding about herself. And I immediately called her and I was like, okay, let's just talk this through, because you're not bad at sales, because you have a thriving business. But what is the problem right now? And for her, it was she had this long list of warm leads. She had done a post on social media about an offer, which I think we've all done this. And then we're waiting for people to come to us based on like
Mhm.
seeing a graphic or like seeing a story, which just isn't how the world really works anymore. I mean, yes, there are times when people are going to have their interest sparked by like us announcing a new offer with a graphic or an Instagram reel or whatever it is.
Mhm.
But people actually need to be handheld a little bit more. So I said to her, hey, I know you've got a long list of warm leads from the amount of events that she was doing, different like collaborations that have come through. Like, you're going to go through that list, you're going to reach out to every single person and just invite them into this offer. It was a great offer. She had already sold one to a client behind the scenes. So I'm like, that people are interested in it. People were commenting on it, like, this is a great
Mhm.
offer. We love this. And I'm like, it's all there, but now you've
Mhm.
got to do like the last 20%, which I think is where most of us will drop off because we don't want to come across as salesy. But what I said to her is what I say to each and every client is, you've got to know that you have a big impact that you're willing to
Mhm.
impart on all of these people, should they be so lucky to work with you. So I said to her, just invite them in. Like, just say, hey, I have this new offer. I thought of you and where you're at. Give them a little bit of context as to why you think it would be a good fit for them, and just make the offer. The worst thing that they do is they say no or they don't respond, and then you just move on. But I
Mhm.
think it's this overt sales, this like selling where we feel
Mhm.
icky, that gets in our way. And you know what? After she did that, she sold out her offer, filled 5 spots, and was like, I can't take on anymore. And I'm like, in
Mhm.
literally less than 24 hours, like, that's interesting.
Crazy how that worked out.
Imagine that. So I think that it just gets in our way because we, as probably most of us, I don't know why I feel like I know so many recovering people pleasers. I think it's probably more common than not. We think we just have to be quiet about our expertise and the
Mhm.
impact that we have, but we're just doing everybody a disservice if we do that.
Yeah. Pondering like on that story a little bit, I wonder if part of us is also like afraid of the success that could come with it. Like, what does it mean if people are interested, if we experience this influx of clients? Do we truly have the capacity to hold
Mhm.
it? It's that imposter syndrome that can creep up in very different ways and really hold us back.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because it's so funny. I would love to get your take on this. Like the whole like being scared of success thing has obviously been something that has come up for me, not me saying it because I've always
Hmm.
been like, I'm not scared of success. Like, bring it to me. But
Uh-huh.
there have been certain instances where I've had mentors or coaches say that to me, as in,
Mm.
like, I think you might be scared of your success, or are even just posing the question, are you scared of your of success? And up until a certain point, I'm like, no, because I just didn't think I had enough context around what that actually meant. But I experienced a similar thing, over the last month. We were chatting before we started recording. I've done a lot in my business, a lot of travel, some
Hmm.
pretty significant brand partnerships. I hosted my own event that was a great success. And in the midst of that, I signed a ton of new clients. And I did have those moments of like, am I going
Hmm.
to be able to hold all of this? And I would say that that thought crept up more than once. And I think that we don't equate that fear to fear of being successful. At least I didn't for a really long time. But I
Hmm.
think that's so true. One of the things this client had said to me, just to bring it back, was, okay, I think I have to cap it at 5 because it feels like a lot. And I'm like, well, as soon as we start feeling like it's a lot, we're already overwhelmed by all of the success we've just had. Now we're going to make that a problem, which also isn't great. So yeah, there's a
Hmm.
lot going on there.
This is honestly the first time that I've sat with this. So this is like going to be some raw thought. I love it.
Okay.
I'm here for it.
Yes.
But I think part of when we get to a point where we recognize like success is like knocking at our door, is there are sacrifices that we have to make with our time. Like we're no longer this entity that feels readily available, readily accessible. There is an exclusivity that comes with success. It's like, okay, I can't work with everybody. I can't say yes to everything. My personal life even looks different because in our world today, I think we really emphasize like work-life balance. And then we recognize that success is a little bit less of work-life balance and moving with a more values-driven mindset.
Yeah, I relate to that so much. And I think it comes up in so many different ways. I mean, the thing that I had to get really comfortable with in the last couple weeks was
Mm.
I saw this big influx of clients into a group container that I have. And obviously, like most service provider, we've got a group program and then we have a one-on-one program, which is higher ticket. And the lines became a bit blurry over the last couple months where some of the clients that enter a group program have a pre-existing relationship with me, so they feel like they can send me a direct message with a voice note with a question, and I just sat idly by, like allowing that to happen. And the thought would cross my
Mm.
mind as I would like listen to their voice note and then send a voice note back. So enabling that I was like,
Hmm.
this is going to become a problem. And then I eventually got to a point where it did, and I had to, be the person who goes back into the group program and says, this is the boundary. I cannot answer personal DMs, messages, emails about personal branding or public relations stuff. It all has to be in the group. If you want one-on-one support, we can talk about what that looks like.
Ooh.
But, and then yeah, I was like,
Hmm.
died. Like I died, but I had to send it because I was like,
Hmm.
you're like, I was the only one affected, but I had to not lay the hammer down, but kind of put the boundary in
Hmm.
place. Otherwise, that would just continue to happen. And I
Hmm.
didn't have to do it for so long because I had my group program, but it wasn't. it didn't have as many people in it. You know, it didn't have the kinds of people that are in it now. It didn't have people that maybe wanted more support but didn't necessarily invest in more support. So I got to a place where I'm like, okay, well now you've gotta, because I didn't
Mhm.
have the extra time to be able to like, manage these extra DMs for individual support that people weren't paying for. So that's just one example of how that can show up and the discomfort that comes with it.
I recently added an office hours offer on my website because I found
Mhm.
myself this year in a space where people were reaching out like, "Hey, can I pick your brain?" kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And again, when we talk about that accessibility, I think social media creates this persona that we are accessible, that we're ready to answer questions, that we're creating content because we want to help people. And so people try to bypass the investment or the value that you are offering into your content. And so you connect. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh, great, like adding to the network and, we're going to connect, be able to collaborate. And it was literally just this person like picking my brain. Like, and then ended it with like, if you have any contacts, send them my way. I was like, you thought you could ask me that in 30 minutes of talking to
Oh my God, the audacity.
me? I was like, you know what? Okay, lesson learned. And then as I've continued, and again, when we talk about growth and those discomfort levels that creep up when we grow, I continue to get those kinds of like emails or reach outs. And like I was so proud of myself. I emailed someone and was like, "Sure, I'd be happy to let you know how I got into podcasting, what that looks like. Here's my fee."
Mhm.
Silence. And I was like, "You know what? That's okay. They don't recognize the value in that knowledge. They weren't looking to invest. They were hoping for like a freebie." And that's the when you recognize that your time is an investment, like all the knowledge that you've gained has been a personal investment, and understanding the value in that, there is a necessary shift that has to happen to preserve your own creative orbit.
Yeah, and just like the fact that not everyone is going to get it because not everyone's going to see, no one is ever going to be able to see the vision that you have, but at the same time, no one knows what someone's life looks like behind the scenes, what other responsibilities they might have. I had a really interesting thing happen to me recently where I hosted this amazing event, full sponsor lineup. Like I spent a ton of money on this event, like went out there, just grinded it out, put my financial, energetic, time risk all on the line, and it was amazing. But I had a vendor come back to me after the event asking to use photos from the event.
Mm.
And this was someone that I had paid full pop for their services. And I felt like, okay, I have just offered this content, this photography, this video to all of the attendees who paid for the ticket. I
Mhm.
have offered it to my sponsors, who a lot of sponsors paid a lot of money to be in the room and have access to some of these perks. But now someone who I literally paid was now asking for something else. And I went back to them and said, I'm so sorry, respect for my sponsors. I can only provide content like if there's a usage fee involved, which was a big step for me because people pleaser, wanting to like
Mhm.
uphold relationships, the whole thing was like, you could just hand over the photos.
Yeah.
But I had to then, like, to bring it back to personal branding and the work that I do. When I look at my personal brand, I've said this on my Instagram stories before, I treat it like it's the next Coca-Cola. Like, I'm
Mhm.
like, we're going big with this thing. So if I was to just let someone have free reign over photos that I've provided, that also doesn't feel quite right to me because at the end of the day, they can use them however they want to.
Mhm.
This person proceeded to then just screenshot things from my Instagram and then like had their own caption claiming certain things about their participation and involvement in the event that were untrue. That made it sound like it was more of a partnership than me just paying for services. So at the end of the day, I was like, well, that's exactly why I was going to charge a fee because along with a fee comes a contract. And I think that's what most people aren't actually willing to put in place at this point because we don't see ourselves as like the big brand yet. We don't
Mhm.
see ourselves as having to have stronger boundaries yet. And then there comes a point where we're going to say, well, I wish I did. So my new mantra is, okay, just do it now. Like if it feels like something that needs to be put in place now, it does. And I think a lot of us, me included, kind of ignore that nudge for longer than we should.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. We think, okay, well, we're small right now, like we're in this space where we can say yes, where it doesn't feel like a big deal. But if we're being so committed to the vision that we have, like when we're so locked in on what we're working towards, they recognize it's going to be a big enough deal that they want to use it. Like they want to capitalize
Exactly.
on it right now. And so if they see it, then that means I get to shift focus too. And a lot of us are not ready to be perceived in that light. I think that's a huge part of it too, is like, oh, she thinks she, needs to set a contract in place. Like we can't just handshake on it anymore. Like, oh, I can't just direct contact her anymore. It's like, no, you can't. If I am as committed to the vision as I say that I am, I have to act like it.
Mhm. Yeah, it's so true, honestly. And I think that's actually when it comes to like the fear of success, that becomes a piece of it too, because that's probably one of the pieces that makes us most uncomfortable because it means that we will disappoint someone at some point. Like it
Mhm.
really does. Like this person that I wanted to, have sign a contract, pay a fee. I don't think this person cares to ever work with me again, which I'm like, okay, well, that's fine. Not my person. But I had to make it a me thing where I'm like, oh, well, now I'm the one being difficult. And
Mhm.
I think that, like, for me, being a former corporate girly who was like, never be difficult, never be a problem. Now, sometimes I'm difficult, sometimes
Mhm.
I'm a problem. And I actually think that's okay because at the end of the day, we got to put our own business first. That's how we're going to be able to grow it in a way that feels authentic to us. And it's going to cause us less problems in the future. But we have to just be comfortable with not everyone's going to like it. So that actually, I love how that comes full circle to like this bold voice perspective because I
Mhm.
was like, yeah, if I'm going to show up boldly online in public, I've got to maintain this same kind of bold stance behind the scenes too. And that means in private conversations also when I feel like someone's maybe infringing on, a boundary or something that I want to have in place. So it's crazy.
Absolutely. It
Crazy
is.
people out there.
It's amazing how we can so easily turn the needle inward. Like
Mhm.
I'm being difficult. I'm going to become someone that's really hard to work with. No one's going to want to work with me. And it's like, actually, I'm going to attract the people that can commit to this, that are that are serious because I'm
Yeah.
serious. I'm investing my time, energy, resources, and I want someone of mutual like seriousness. And I think that even rounds out when we think about like getting booked. I think sometimes we're very quick to say yes to things and not recognizing like if we say yes to everything, we're not going to be able to say yes to the things that are actually going to support the direction we're trying to go in.
Yeah, so true. It's so funny that we're having this talk right now because I feel that 150% where I like got to a place where I'm like, okay, the things that I used to like so freely say yes to, now we've got to put some parameters in place, even for myself, where I was like, okay, Katrina, it's probably one networking event per week maximum. So that means you've got to decide which one is more worth your time, which one's going to have maybe a greater ROI, or even just, hey, which one are you going to enjoy going to the most? And it means not every speaking gig is going to be the right fit anymore. It means asking for payment for certain things. And I see this with all of my clients too, because we all reach this point and it usually comes a lot faster than we think it will. But what
Mhm.
I say to my clients in particular is have like a year of yes first, because we've got to build up the experience, the
Yes.
network, the brand. Do your year of yes. And then as soon as it starts to feel not fun anymore,
Mhm.
that's when you know you've got to now put some parameters in place. So I say year of yes, usually it's shorter than a year. Because if you're going full blown into visibility, like getting booked on different things, like you're going to get
Mhm.
overwhelmed very quickly. So it's okay, as soon as it starts to not feel fun, as soon as it starts to feel like a chore, because visibility
Mhm.
should feel fun, now you know that it's time to like raise the bar on what kind of opportunities feel aligned for you. Like the example
Mhm.
for me is I only actually go on podcasts when people invite me on them now. I don't like spend time pitching. Yeah, I know. Because I used to burn myself out pitching a podcast, booking them all, and then I would feel like I was just regurgitating the same
Mhm.
conversation every time. So now I'm like, okay, I only go on a podcast when someone invites me, which
Mhm.
is less often than you think. But then that way I feel like it's more aligned because typically that person, like you and I, connected whenever we did exchange some voice
Mhm.
notes. It feels like there's a an actual relationship there. Whereas
Mhm.
for so long I got to a point where I would like go on a podcast and have no existing relationship with that host and it would feel like work. Whereas like
Mhm.
I was so excited to record with you today because I'm like, ah, yes, like this just feels fun instead of
Mhm.
a chore. But we've got to understand what our own process looks like when it comes to these things.
My gosh. Are you into human design?
I am, yeah.
What's your what's your makeup
I'm
in that?
a generator, and then I can never remember like the number, the actual
Okay.
like, yeah, yeah.
That's
What are you?
okay. I'm a generator too, and I
Oh, good.
asked that because I actually sent my friend a couple weeks ago. I told her I'm only going to start accepting podcast pitches that I send out, that I
Mm,
ask the guest to be on versus
yeah.
someone asking me to be on the show. Because a lot of times it's someone they either just found me through a mutual or they read the title of the name and read a couple of the episodes and were like, yes, we're aligned. I might not have that 100% investment in that person. And so
Yeah.
sometimes that episode or that recording will come up and I'm like, I'm not feeling as excited as I would feel if I had pitched that person, if I knew I had already taken the time and energy to really check out their socials, check out their energy, and see if they were a fit. And so this is so interesting and
Mm,
very affirming in the direction that I was leaning to. And yeah, we
yeah.
can that year of yes remind me when I was first building out my podcast. I use threads. I mean, we love threads, praise the Lord for threads. And I posted, hey, I'm looking for guests. If you want to come on, come on. The floodgates opened
Oh, yeah.
and everybody wanted to be on a podcast. That was sustainable for a month. And but like you said, part of visibility is just casting a wide net, putting yourself out there, and then you get to start reeling it in and actually being like, okay, you know what? Did it. Now people are starting to get a sense of things. Like, okay, we're starting to get some motion, and you get to start that exclusivity. And again, I say that word, I'm like, that's like creeping up on my own like fear of success part. But not you cannot be available to everything and everyone if you want to see like a clear ROI or go in the direction that you envision for yourself.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think, especially when it comes to all of your own assets, like it comes to your podcast or like if you host events, it's like those are representations of you at the end of the day. So, like, if you have a guest on there that doesn't feel aligned to that you don't vibe with, like your audience can tell. And I feel the same way about events because, I just hosted my first like really big event that had like a speaker lineup that wasn't just me. And I handpicked each of those speakers because I could tell a very specific story about each one. And it was really important to me that I had this connection to each one so I could link everything together and be able to like really like not give some pre-scripted introduction, but I could actually explain to the audience why each of those speakers were there. And I actually think that's really interesting when I come across a lot of people who host events and maybe they have like speaker applications or
Mhm.
podcasts that, yes, cast a wide net. And I'm just like, to me, And I think this actually probably says so much about how I treat public relations. It's all relationship building. Like, I have to have this pre-existing relationship with someone to be able to feel like I can show up authentically like
Mhm.
myself and to actually like integrate them into
Mhm.
it. Like, a really great example of this is I'm currently working with an event on like some sponsorship, and it includes a bunch of different touch points and, you know, different micro events, all things. It's a big plan. And it was really important to me that there was this common thread that wove through each and everything that we did together, because I knew that if I just treated it like a one-off sponsorship, that it was going to feel disjointed and fake. And I
Mhm.
think even when I look at like influencers now too, who have like all these different brand partnerships, you can tell when it just feels
Mhm.
like an advertisement. But if a brand is willing to have like a bigger integration into someone's business, like I have some brand partners where it's like now I integrate them into so many touch points, it becomes part of my story, then
Mhm.
the audience is just like, okay, yes, like this feels
Mhm.
natural, organic, like part of the story. But we've got to be able to discern like if something actually fits into our personal brand and if it doesn't. Because if it doesn't, the audience is going to tell.
They're gonna call it out or they're gonna move on. So it
Yeah.
sounds
And they'll
like
just be
you are
unengaged.
really moving in the event space
Mhm.
planning. I'm curious, like we're heading into 2026, which is crazy. Like we are 2 months
Crazy.
away. What are you imagining for yourself in the next year?
Oh my God, so much. Like, so much. So important to know about me, 12 months ago, I like was going to quit being a business owner. I had an agency, like a very traditional marketing and PR agency, and I just didn't like running it. And
Mm.
I was like, why is this so hard? Why is this not fun? I was miserable. I was depressed. I was like thinking about getting a job as like a bartender because I'm like, that would probably be more fun and maybe more lucrative at this point. And I didn't do any of that. I just transitioned my business to be personal branding and public relations coaching, which is the one thing that I really feel passionate about. Transitioned my business into being a full-time coach. And so I've been doing that now for 12 months, which is crazy. But what's been very cool is in really leaning into the things that light me up and I'm passionate about, it's actually helped me build a bigger personal brand. So this is something that I think is so cool is when we like really find like our thing, like what's the thing that we're known for as a personal brand, it actually opens up all these different revenue streams that we didn't know existed. So in the last 12 months, I've been able to speak at so many events like across the continent, but I've also had brand partnerships with some pretty significant brands. I've run my own events. Like I've done so much in a short amount of time, but also things that don't necessarily make sense for a brand of my size at this point because I don't have hundreds of thousands of followers. I have like almost 3,000 followers on Instagram, but it is the most engaged 3,000 people you've ever seen in your life because they buy from me. So I'm like, okay, how do I? Because I felt like I had just kind of blown the roof off of 2025. So I'm like, how do I top that? Which is a scary place because I asked myself that question a year ago and I ended up not topping it. I ended up like holding on to everything so tight, the fear of success that I almost lost everything. But this year, so I'm writing a book that's basically all about how I built this personal brand very quickly and in a way that's become so profitable. So that will be coming out. Let's just put it out there because I got to hold myself to deadlines by October 2026. So that's like my big shiny thing that I'm working towards. So I'm the PR girl, so everything's got to kind of link to that. So that's the big thing. And then in between all of that, I want to host larger events for myself, bring some more brand partners into the whole thing. And then the other thing is not really related to business at all, but like probably is down the road. I'm taking singing lessons. Okay, let's just like be so real for a second. I am not a singer. It has been like a full like it has been an exercise in fully dropping the ego, like literally putting it on the floor. Because to sing is such a vulnerable thing, especially in front of someone. Oh my God, my poor coach, like bless him. The first three lessons, I like was like, we're not singing today. Like I can't. But now we're finally through it. So my goal is to eventually be able to like sing in public because when I have a singing voice and when I'm like good at singing, I just know I'm going to be so annoying. I'm going to be the girl that sings all the time. But we might as well like put it into the brand somehow. So that's like the big thing that I'm working on.
I love I mean, you have to have a side quest.
Yes, absolutely.
Part of brand building is a side quest.
Exactly. And you know what? I learned to play golf last year. So I'm like pretty good at golf now. And so I kind of like went through that process and was like, okay, that was great for confidence building, great for the brand in different ways. I mean, I ended up running like women's golf events that ended up seeing like tons of participants, were a big hit. So I'm like, okay, it's time for a new challenge. Like we're now good at golf. So like what else can I like get good at?
You are, we're like connected because you're literally speaking to so many things that I have said in the last month. My escape job is also bartending. Like when I'm ready to like say screw it all, I'm like, okay, where am I gonna go bartend? I'm headed to the beach, live my life over there. I literally said to somebody about golf, I was like, well, all the decisions are made on the golf course, so I need to learn how to play golf. So we're
Yeah.
just like really here and I love it. And I'm so excited to see how your journey continues to unfold and what is next for you. Where can people find you if they're interested in following the journey or looking to work with you in some capacity?
Yeah, so the easiest place to reach me is on Instagram at Katrina Owens PR. My podcast is at Game Get Fame Ready on Instagram. Those are the two places where it's easiest to learn about me and what I do. And yeah, eventually I'll post singing content. Eventually. So if people are interested in that, they can stay tuned.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I have really enjoyed this conversation.